What's up, everybody? We are getting started here on the Falcons Podcast. Give me 1 second. I'm going to loop in our friends over there on Twitter and on Facebook, and then we're going to get underway. All right. And we are live and we are underway. My name is Garrett Chapman. This is the Falcons Podcast. Welcome in. And the Atlanta Falcons finally get a win. What does it mean? What does it mean? We'll talk about it here on the Falcons Podcast over here. Next, 30, 45 minutes. We'll see how long it goes. We'll have a good time with it. We are live, though, across all platforms. Thank you so much for joining. And if you are over there on Twitter, make sure to give me a follow at GChapATL. If you are on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit that button. Doesn't cost you a thing. Doesn't really cost you. It doesn't do anything. Just do it real quick. It only takes a second. We don't hassle you. Don't want to bother you. It just only helps us, and we really appreciate you. But welcome in. Welcome. We'll talk about what it means for Raheem Morris. We'll talk about the game. We'll react to it, and I will take your questions. So make sure to drop those into the live chat. I will try to get to as many of those as I can, and effectively the order that I receive them. So drop them into the chat. I see some people are already starting to jump in across all platforms. Thank you. Welcome in. So the Atlanta Falcons, they get a big one. 27-24, they win over the Los Angeles Rams. And this was a reaffirming win for the Atlanta Falcons. First half showed what they were really capable of doing. Second half, well, not so great, but they hold on. It's basically just a claw your way back and hold on for dear life. That's kind of the way it went. But the first half showed me what this team is capable of doing. And it kind of showed me that I'm not insane, right? It showed me that I'm not crazy for believing in this team in the preseason and expecting something from them. Yes, they're eliminated from the postseason. Yes, they're not going to go do the things that I expected them to do at the beginning of the year, but they have a chance to finish 8-9. And that means something. It means something to the players. It means something to this coaching staff, and it might mean something for the future of this staff as well. But again, we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But I think it reaffirmed something for the players. It reaffirmed something for the people who cover this team, because we saw the potential for this group. We saw the potential. It was all over the field all summer long, and we saw it at times in spurts throughout the course of this season. And the first half, again, spurts, perfect example of it. You saw it in the first half in a big way. This team races out to the 21-0 lead. It was the largest deficit that the Rams have faced all season. A team who, when it's all said and done, I would not be surprised if they go on and win a Super Bowl. That's how good that team is. You have Puka Nacua, who has a chance to lead the NFL in receiving, and he currently does. You got an MVP frontrunner. He might have slipped down a little bit after yesterday's game, but Matthew Stafford is one of the top candidates to go take home an MVP trophy. And you shut that offense down. You hold them scoreless in the first half of the game. And then you go to this other side, and offensively, the Falcons do effectively whatever they need to. They're converting third downs. They're scoring in the red zone. They're rushing for 200-plus yards. You got one guy running for 195 yards. I mean, snapping records and doing incredible things. They show what they're capable of. And before anybody hits me with, Devontae Adams didn't play. Well, Drake London's not exactly healthy either. Let's just be very clear about that. It's pretty clear that he is not 100% healthy. And that kind of thing has to matter. He's still playing. But ultimately, it's a reaffirming win for the Falcons. I want to keep this about the Falcons. It's not about the Rams. This is about the Falcons. Because it showed what they are capable of doing. It showed what they're capable of. And I'll ask you guys this question. Does that make it more or less frustrating that this team is where it is right now? Is that more or less frustrating? Because I can go either way. I can go either way on that. Because I am frustrated because this team has won 3 games in a row for the first time all season. This team has won 3 games in a row for only the second time since Raheem Morris has been the head coach of this team. It doesn't happen very often. And they have a chance to win 4 games in a row to finish the season 8-9. It's a game coming at home. It's against your division rival. We'll talk about the game later on in the week. But you've been eliminated from the playoffs for a month. And it's only now that the Falcons kind of figure this thing out. And that is frustrating. It's very frustrating. On the other hand, it shows you that they're capable of doing it. Maybe it shows that this team does have a bit of an identity. if not an identity crisis, moving into next season, just with what's going to be going on and going into next season. But it showed me that the capability is still there. And the talent that we have been talking about all season has been there all along. It's just they haven't been able to make the winning plays. Far too often, you have guys who are missing extra points or missing game-tying field goals or missing blocks or dropping passes. It was far too frequent that you saw it. And sometimes it is that simple. It comes down to just a handful of plays. And, I mean, Raheem Morris said it after the game, and he said it effectively after every game. You got to find a way to win. You got to find a way to win. And by and large, it's been one of the more annoying things to hear because it's on repeat. You hear him say it several times. But on top of that, this is not wrong. You got to find a way to win. Good teams find ways to win. And for a long time, this Falcons team has not been a good team. They have not been good enough to win games. And it's the moments that matter that they faltered in. But ultimately, the future of Raheem Morris is in question. And I do believe that the future of Raheem is still absolutely in question. I think there's a growing sense of confidence in that building that he might be able to get the job done in 2025 or 2026. I don't know if that's going to end up being the case. I'd say that the result in week 18 is going to matter a whole heck of a lot. Matters a bunch to the guys in that building, matters to the guy who's going to be coaching this team and potentially the general manager as well. If they go get a win, say they look dominant in this game, I would not be surprised if Arthur Blank opts to retain. The hope ultimately is that you avoid what happened in 2019, where a very similar situation unfolded. The Falcons had been eliminated from the postseason for many weeks, and Dan Quinn goes on a run. Thomas Dimitroff, he's retained. Dan Quinn, he's retained. And then they start the 2020 season 0-5. And they made a lot of decisions that offseason that set the franchise back for several years. Put them into that cap hell. You go get like a Dante Fowler. You go spend a ton of money on bad contracts. And it sets you back. It continues to set you back. And I that is my biggest concern, is that if you inevitably make the decision to move on, then you have a coach and a general manager who they're going to be making aggressive moves this summer, this spring and summer to make sure that they win games. And they're not going to have the best view of the team in mind, I guess. They're in self-preservation mode. So that's where it comes into a big concern for me. But I do see the potential. I do think that there is a viable chance that Raheem Morris is figuring this thing out. And sometimes that kind of thing takes time. Sometimes it really does take a little bit of time. And the Falcons never fully went into a quote-unquote rebuild mode with him as the head coach, with Terry Fontenot as the general manager. It's been a pretty consistent stream of trying to compete while also trying to retool, I think was the word that they used a lot. And it was frustrating because sometimes you need to tear it down to the studs and then build it back up. And they just never really did that. So they've been kind of this tweener mode. And it's been a frustrating spot to be in for Falcons fans who just haven't been able to get this team over the hump. Not the fans, the team hasn't been able to get over the hump. But as far as the game itself, Bijan Robinson, what more can you say about this guy? What more can you say about Bijan Robinson? He shatters William Andrews' single-season record for scrimmage yards. Same number of games, by the way. That is an important thing to keep in mind because there are going to be those people who say, well, you had more games to do it. Did it in 16 games. So I think it matters a lot to me, at least, that he does it in 16 games. And he has a chance to separate here in game 17. And, and you talk about those reaffirming moments from this game. It was reaffirming for Raheem Morris and the comments that he made, calling him the best player in football earlier this season. Some people scoffed at it. We talked about it a lot on this podcast. We've talked about it a good bit over there on Falcons on SI. And what he did on Monday Night Football against a pretty stout defense there for the Rams, it's incredible. The way that Mohamed Sanu said he looks like he's out there playing recess football with his buddies. the way really good players used to just moss people and run around the field and make people look silly. That's what he does, but to professional football players. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do. Unbelievable what he's been able to do. And you go back to the offseason and the preseason and when this team is building and building and building, and they talked a lot about building that explosiveness. I think his career long at some point was 34, 35, 36 yards, something like that. Well, now it's 93 yards. It's the longest run in franchise history. It's the longest run in the NFL since 2020. And he did that en route to 195 yards. And anybody who says, oh, well, it's just the big play. You take away the 93-yard touchdown run, that guy still has over 100 yards rushing. He also had the most receptions in the game and caught a touchdown. I mean, what more can you say about this guy? He's on track to potentially track down the all-purpose record. I don't think it's going to happen. He's got 2,225 yards this season, 16th in NFL history. But he just does his average of 139 total yards. That would put him up to 6th in NFL history. 284, which admittedly is a lot. That's a lot of yards. I don't think he'll necessarily get to that, but if he gets to 284 yards against the Saints on Sunday, then he'd break the record, or he'd tie the record. 285 would break the record. But I do want to say this as well. 225 yards in 16 games, that puts him 33 yards from scrimmage behind Saquon Barkley from last year. He does have 4 fewer touchdowns. That's the unfortunate side of it. But 4 touchdowns, 33 scrimmage yards on a team that won a lot fewer games and had fewer opportunities to run the ball in a way that that team did. That Eagles team who goes on to win a Super Bowl. It's an Eagles team who has debatably, but not really debatably, the best offensive line in the NFL last year. Bijan Robinson has done it through the air. He's done it on the ground. He does it on pass blocking. He does it in terms of leadership. He does it in everything. Every facet of the game is what Bijan Robinson does. But I'll say this. I bring up Saquon Barkley because I saw the odds for Bijan Robinson to take home Offensive Player of the Year. Much less All-Pro, because he's the first team All-Pro. Has to be. He's 4th. I get it. Jackson Smith-Njigba's had a great year. Puka Nacua, I mean, he's had a great year too. A lot of that feels different when you match him up against what Bijan Robinson has been able to do and the impact that Bijan has every single week. And most of his yards are picked up by himself. He's not throwing the ball down the field, right? I always find it to be a little bit more impressive when a running back is able to do it instead of a wide receiver, but neither here nor there. The thing that really grinds my gears, though, is the fact that Christian McCaffrey is in front of Bijan Robinson for Offensive Player of the Year odds. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Outside, I mean, you have the touchdowns. He's had a lot of touchdowns. He's had 10 rushing touchdowns. He's had 7 receiving touchdowns. Bijan's had 11 total. I get that fact. Fine. It's ridiculous. Bijan Robinson has been the best running back in the NFL all season. He is the best player in football all season. That's what he's been. That's what he's been. And it's a win-loss record type of award, and ultimately that's what it's going to come back to. So he might get some votes. I said before the season he'd need to hit that 2,000 yards from scrimmage mark to get some votes and to get some of that attention. He's done that and then some. Leads the NFL in total scrimmage or total yards. And I mean, what more can you say about this guy? Just a tremendous season from him. I do see some comments have started to roll in. I'm going to try to get to some of these real quick, and then I'm going to continue with my description of the game and kind of what I saw in this one. And but I do want to jump in and answer some of these questions. All right. Alexander Talome says, what's up, Garrett? Heard anything surrounding Morris? Definitely gone, staying still up in the air. It is still completely and totally up in the air. I'd say a lot of this is going to come back to just how this team plays in Week 18. They have an outside source who's coming in, and they're going to be reviewing everything from Raheem Morris, from Terry Fontenot, and everything else. You also have Matt Ryan, who's interviewing for positions with the team. I don't know what that's going to look like necessarily, but the next couple of weeks are going to be pretty big. Getting this win over the Rams, I think, does certainly help the case for Raheem Morris because it shows the capability that this guy brings every week. But ultimately, my inclination is that he's going to stay. I would not be very surprised if they do fire him, but staying still makes a lot of sense. And generally for a head coach, if you can make that argument and you can make it comfortably, I would say, and it's not necessarily comfortable, but I think the team is playing hard for him. It's far from a lost cause, and it's only been 2 years. He has not done enough damage, in my opinion, to be fired after 2 years. You have arguments in his camp that you could absolutely make. Injuries have derailed your season. You had a young quarterback who got hurt mid-season. You lost your star wide receiver. You lost your star cornerback for almost a month. You lost your right tackle and your backup right tackle before the season started. You lost your left tackle in a game. You didn't end up missing any time, but he was heavily hampered. You missed Chris Lindstrom. Again, similar to Jake Matthews, he didn't miss any games, but he was heavily hampered. You lost your left guard. You lost probably your most important defensive player in Divine Diablo for several weeks. Injuries piled up. Ultimately, it's a next man up league, and it's not going to be something that he's not going to make that excuse. I mean, maybe he does behind closed doors. We don't know what those conversations are, Alexander, but ultimately he does have those meetings with Arthur Blank every single week. After every single game, he has those meetings with Arthur Blank, and maybe he is bringing that up, but we shall see. I think that the game against the New Orleans Saints is going to be pretty telling. Bucko Kamish says, what's the vibe like in the building? Have to be mixed with a ton of frustration and questions about future of the franchise, quarterback, head coach, staff, etc. I can tell you Mercedes-Benz was popping last night. That was one of the best crowds that I have seen for the Falcons all season. And again, Atlanta knows how to party. Atlanta knows how to have a good time. And when it is prime time and the lights are on, and that's when Atlanta shows out, man. I mean, you get Soulja Boy and lots of awesome artists coming out and playing, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you got Scott Van Pelt and Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Monday Night Football, and Atlanta knows how to get down. Atlanta knows how to party and have a great time. You're playing the Rams too. That's a sexy opponent. So folks showed up. They had a great time, but I'm assuming that you're talking about Flowery Branch. And Bucko Kamish, to answer, I actually say it's a little bit of mixed emotions because the team is winning and they're reaffirming. That's what I talked about off the top, is that they had some reaffirming wins and moments for themselves over these last couple of games. Show them that they are capable of doing big things and winning football games in this league. They've been in the mix several times, but getting that extra play just to get you up over that hump, sometimes it's very difficult. And teams have to learn how to do that. That's a very real thing. You have to learn how to win games in this league. It's not easy. It's not easy to win games in this league. But there is some frustration, I guarantee you, because I asked Jesse Bates about this specifically, and he said how this team is effectively 2, 3, 4 snaps away from being right there in the mix with the Panthers. Shoot, man, you'd be in front of the Panthers. If you have a couple of more plays go your way, you convert an extra point, you make a couple tackles, you make that catch, then the Falcons are where they need to be, potentially in the postseason, because there is a world that they finish in a 3-way tie for first place in the NFC South. And that makes me want to freaking rip my hair out, frustrating, very frustrating. And the fact that this team went to 3-7 over its first 11 weeks and then effectively was done, but then you flip around and you go 4-2 and you win 3 games in a row, that's frustrating. It's frustrating, but it's also reaffirming. It also tells you that this team has it in them to go get those wins. But I wonder if they are able to go get it done when the pressure is on, when the lights are bright. And that is coaching. Maybe it's also the players. It's a little bit of everything. But I think it does. All of it has to matter to some degree. Maz makes his opinions strong, which I appreciate. No, we should not be building anything with Raheem Morris. Continues and says Raheem and Zach Robinson have to go. I think there's a very real chance that happens. I would not be at all surprised if both are fired. And the thing is, if you fire Raheem, you're cleaning house. I know a lot of people want to keep Jeff Ulbrich and move everybody else on. I just don't think that's realistic necessarily, because most of the time coaches want to bring in their own guys. They want to bring in their staff. They want to bring in guys who are going to fit their vision of what they want their team to be. But I would say I was on the morning shift this morning at Sports Radio 92.9 The Game in Atlanta, and the overall sentiment from us this morning was that if you do bring in a new staff, priority one has to be Jeff Ulbrich. And yes, a lot of it has to do with the personnel and the players that you have on the field, but he unlocked some folks, man. D. Alford has had a career year. Caden Ellis has been fantastic. Brandon Dorless, Ruka Roro. I mean, you've had career years for several players, and play calling matters. It has to matter to some degree, and Jeff Ulbrich has to be a part of this team moving forward. The unfortunate reality is that if you fire Raheem Morris, that may not be the case, and you may be getting your fourth defensive coordinator in 4 years. Tough. The Daily Talon 9259 says, do you think that Matt Ryan thing actually happens? If so, would it happen sometime this week or after the season? It'll happen after the season. Nothing is going to happen between now and week 18. There's just nothing that he would do. Maybe he would make his decision official, and I mean, we'll see. But I think that this is something that's going to happen after the season. And according to what I have heard from folks up there at Flowery and around the situation, it's in his camp. It's hard to say no when you have the owner of the franchise coming your way and saying that you are interested and you want this guy. But Matt's also he's got a cushy situation. And I mean, he's able to spend time with his kids. He really, I mean, he's on CBS right now and he's doing that job. Which is kind of an ivory tower job when you're in studio and you just have to fly to New York once a week and you're there on Sundays and it's only in the fall. And then you get to spend time with your kids and your wife and your family and everything else in the spring, the winter, and most of the summer. It's just a football season. And even then you're still largely spending time with your family. You know, you go to a job in a front office, whether it's player personnel, general manager, assistant GM, I don't know, the advisor, that's out the window to some extent. And it takes up a lot more of your time, and that's a big commitment. Now, I think he loves football. I think he wants to be involved in the organization. I think there is some interest. It's just how much interest is there? How much of an impact do you think he's going to want to make? How much time do you think he's willing to commit? That's a fair question. It's a fair question and something that only he can answer. So ultimately, I think the ball is just in his court. And if he says no, credit to him. I think he's well within his rights to say no. But I think it would be kind of fun just because as somebody who grew up watching that guy play football, I mean, I think that'd be a lot of fun to have him involved in operations and things like that. And getting a guy like that who's understanding of that franchise and what they need, I think could provide some fresh perspective, which I think could be nice. Over on Facebook, Leon Mapstone, he says, I think if we beat the Saints, Morris will be back. If not, I think there needs to be a change. I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think the Falcons could absolutely lose to the Saints on Sunday, and he retains his job. I think that there is a chance that happens, but I don't think it's that zero sum necessarily. If you win definitively, then I think he helps his case. But there, on the flip side, Leon, if he wins, I also don't think that guarantees anything at all. I don't think that necessarily means he's retaining his job. He just needs to put out a good product. And if he does on Sunday, if he looks definitive in this game, then this Falcons team figures it out. And they basically do what they did the first time they played the Saints. I think he's got a pretty good check in that box, right? We'll see if it's going to be enough because the body of work, I mean, it's pretty much the hay's in the barn. This week could help, but it can also certainly hurt. Let's see. Burmy Falcon over there on YouTube says, Morris is not going anywhere. Did you see Blank's reaction to the win last night? Morris is in year one is here for one more year. Plus, who is available as a replacement? And I mean a good replacement. Well, I don't think a lot of people really know who the great head coaches are going to be. We all have an idea, right? We have an idea. But a lot of coaches are hired every single year, and a lot of them fail. I'd say the majority of them fail. Not everybody's going to come and be Vrabel or come in and be Mike McDonald, who's up with the Seahawks. I mean, Liam Cohen down there in Jacksonville. I don't think a lot of people expected Liam Cohen to be doing what he's doing right now, or McDonald. Everyone talks about Ben Johnson, right? A guy who, he was the poster boy of just the sexy head coach hire, who big offensive mind, and he's really fun, and he gets all these high scoring points and everything else. And then they forget about these other guys, and a lot of them work, a lot more of them don't, and I think ultimately you're not, you know what you have. If you know what you have and you're not happy with what you have, then you got to move on. But I don't want to put too much into a reaction from Arthur Blank, a guy who just wants to win football games. He's also got a rivalry with the owner of the Rams. They've got a bit of a rivalry there. So I would say that anytime you get a win, I think he's going to be excited, and rightfully so. And the same reason that the fans in the building were excited. But we shall see. I'd say the next week is going to be potentially a big news week. So all the more reason to give me a follow at GChatBTL. I'll be up at Flowery Branch all week this week and next week, trying to kind of piece the puzzles together and trying to figure everything out, just like you guys are. Leon says, it's a shame Carolina will get it's a shame a Carolina win will get them in. It is what it is, Leon. It is what it is. They've earned it, or more than the Falcons have. Falcons had 2 chances to beat them. First time, that game was over pretty quickly. Well, it was 10-0 at halftime, right? And you lose that game 30-0, so you didn't have any business winning that game. But second one, you definitely should have. It is what it is. You missed your opportunity. The Daily Talent says, does whether or not Matt Ryan comes on depends whether the coach and GM stays or no? No, I don't know. I don't know what position he was offered. I don't know what position he would want to take. That's not something that I'm familiar with. That's something that Arthur Blank is aware of, and maybe a very small number of people. Keep on going through. Sam Davis says 8-9 is what Vegas projected the Falcons record would be. A win at home against New Orleans will be an accurate prediction. Yeah, that's right about what it was. I think the number was 7.5. So the Falcons have a chance to hit the over in unprecedented fashion, having won their final 4 games of the year. And yeah, it's frustrating for a lot of different reasons, but no, Vegas is right more often than not. Vegas, they tend to know some things. So that would definitely put them right there in the middle of it. Burmy Falcon says this was a real coming out party for BJ. Monday Night Football for everyone to see against supposedly one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, Bijan was incredible in this game. Bijan was just, it's hard to find more adjectives for this guy. What he does on a football field, Dave Archer, who does the Atlanta Falcons Radio Network, he's not a hyperbolic person. And he said he could go down as the best running back in NFL history. That's not an exaggeration. This guy can be that good. He absolutely can be that good. Of course, health has a lot to do with that. Longevity and stuff like that. He takes good care of his body, the way that he's able to move and the things that he is able to do. And I think everybody gets lost in the jukes and the movement and everything. That guy's so damn strong. He's unbelievably strong. And what he's able to do has a lot to do with the fact that he's flexible as hell, and he's strong. He's fast. He has great hands. His coordination is undoubtedly among the best in the NFL. I don't know what else he can't do. There's nothing he can't do on a football field. I swear, if they asked him to line up and play quarterback, he would. And I bet he'd be an all-pro at that too. What he's been able to do, and doing it on Monday Night Football, I think was awesome too. John M2617 says we are home versus the Saints on Sunday. The Aints. Yes, Falcons are home. They will be the home team. And I think they're small favorites. I think they opened at 2.5-point favorites, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure that line has moved since Monday Night Football. Bijan, Mro 2099 says Bijan should be the offensive player of the year. Unfortunately, he's not, and it'll probably be CMC or JSN. It won't be CMC. It'll be JSN. It might be Puka Nacua, depending on what they do in week 18. But I imagine it's going to be JSN just because of what he's been able to do in the not very many attempts. He's electric. I mean, we saw him, what he was able to do against the Falcons earlier this season. Ultimately, I think it's going to be JSN if I had to make a pick. Samuel Davis, 1524, says the Falcons need Malik Willis or Mac Jones. Willis can keep a defense honest with his legs. Can Penix play under center and operate the play action? I like the idea of Malik Willis. I don't think Malik Willis is going to come to Atlanta. I think Malik wants to go find a place where he can start games. I love having Malik here, but he doesn't want to. I don't think, and I'm not going to speak for him, but in my opinion, I don't think this is a guy who's going to go to a place where he's only guaranteed 4 starts, 3 starts, 2 starts. I mean, shoot, man, he may not be guaranteed any starts if Michael Penix is able to come back and start week 1. I think there is reason to be concerned that Penix is not going to start week 1. I don't think he will. I'm not trying to put that out there necessarily, but if I'm Malik Willis, why am I going to a place where I'm not at least going to have a chance to be the guaranteed starter? Or at least have a chance to compete in the summertime and earn that job. There are going to be opportunities for him to do that. Maybe he goes to Cleveland. Maybe he goes to, I think in Cleveland would throw a bag at him. The Jets would throw a bag at him. The Giants, I mean, they've got Jackson Dart, but they might throw a bag at him. There are places, the Raiders, they might throw a bag at him. So there are a lot of teams across the NFL who would probably be a more suitable place for him, a place where he's going to go get a longer-term contract that might give him a little bit more financial flexibility, if you will. So I like the idea of Malik Willis, and Mac Jones is also under contract with the 49ers. I think they have a team option on him, if I am not mistaken. And I may be wrong. I'm going off the top of my head with that one, but they may opt to keep him, and Mac Jones is in a similar spot. I mean, I think he wants to start. I think he's going to try and go someplace that he can get that opportunity. Credit to him if he does. John says Penix is totally irrelevant going forward. No. No, he's not. He's very relevant. He's somebody that the Falcons invested a top 10 pick in, especially if Raheem is here. If I don't know about Zach Robinson. I don't think he's going to be back regardless. But Raheem Morris, if he's back, if Terry Fontenot is back, Michael Penix is still going to be the guy. I mean, if you have a new general manager, new head coach, he's still going to be relevant in the discussion, but he's not potentially going to be as relevant. But because we have guys who want their own quarterbacks, they want their own guys. MRO 2099 says, I like Malik, but allow other shooters. Yeah, so you tend to agree with me there. All right, but as far as the guy that the Falcons do currently have under center, Kirk Cousins in this game, I mean, he was solid. He wasn't spectacular. He doesn't necessarily light up the stat sheet. He completes 13 to 20 passes, 126 yards. He does have the touchdown to Bijan Robinson. But, I mean, there's something to be said that the Falcons did have looked this good with him under center. And to my point, the comment earlier about Michael Penix being irrelevant, he's not irrelevant. He's going to be relevant in this discussion moving forward. And I think it may end up leading Kirk Cousins to not really wanting to be in Atlanta. But I think if the Falcons want to keep him here and they're willing to pay him, then he'll be more than happy to wear that Falcons logo one more season. But is he going to be worth that massive cap hit? I think that's something that the Falcons are going to have to consider. He was good in this game. And it's not one of those games that I think is going to be a light up the stat sheet kind of game for him. But he kept the Falcons on schedule. He made some big throws when he had to. He converted some third downs. And he didn't make any big mistakes. And I think that has to matter to some extent. It absolutely has to matter. And for the Falcons, that's just what you need. And I think that that's one thing that's been just as frustrating is the fact that they didn't really need the big Matthew Stafford strong-arm quarterback. They needed somebody who was going to be a guiding piece, somebody who had some stability. And that's what Kirk Cousins was. It's what Kirk Cousins has been for the Falcons since he's taken over as the full-time starter. I mean, it's frustrating to think about that fact. It's a little frustrating to think about that fact. But if Kirk Cousins was the starter for the full season, The thought remains. The thought definitely has to remain. But the other big thing from this one is AJ Terrell. I mean, that guy's a freaking stud. Shuts down Puka Nacua when he does guard him. He doesn't travel with guys. That's just not the way that the Falcons have done things. But when he did, AJ Terrell, he was in Puka's back pocket. He only allowed 2 receptions. He was targeted 5 times, covered him 10 times. AJ Terrell's not targeted often. It's like 11.5%, which is the 4th lowest in the NFL. This showed why. This game showed why. Terrell was a stud. It was a beast. And because of that, you have Stafford, that and a pass rush who stacked Stafford 3 times. It created a lot of problems for Stafford, who throws 3 interceptions in this game. Jesse Bates, he returns 1 for a touchdown. He now is the only player in the NFL to have returned a pick for a touchdown or have a defensive touchdown in each of the last 3 seasons. Each of his 3 seasons in Atlanta, he's done it. And Xavier Watts, him being alongside of Jesse Bates, Jeff Ulbrich said it's quickly going to be one of the best duos, if not the best duo in the NFL. I tend to agree. Xavier Watts now has 5 interceptions this season, tying Deion Sanders for the 2nd most in Falcons history for rookies. He's 2nd in the NFL in interceptions with 5. 2nd. Bird is the guy who leads right now. I think he's got 6. So Xavier Watts, if he goes and gets a pick in week 18, he could end the season leading the NFL in interceptions. And I don't even think he is mentioned when people talk about the Rams trading that, or the Rams sending us the pick for James Pierce. No one talks about the fact that, well, we do in Atlanta, but nationally, folks just seem to forget that the Falcons got 2 all rookie team players from that trade. Pretty good. I think it's worked out pretty nicely here for the Falcons. I think that anybody who tries to say that the Falcons made a bad decision with that trade last year, tell them to kick rocks. Just tell them to kick rocks because it's foolish. The Falcons are in great shape. They got a guy who has 8.5 sacks. He leads all rookies. And they got a rookie safety who is as good as anybody else in the NFL at going and getting the ball. Got 5 interceptions. The guy's got a nose for the football. And all the Falcons had to do was trade a future first for it. Fine. And that, I think, and also that pick may also end up being like, what, pick 18? Behind what the Falcons were picking last year. Great. Sign me up. Sign me up. It's going to be a comment that's going to be made all throughout the season, the offseason, especially if the Rams go on and have some success. Oh, the Falcons traded him a pick. Tell them to kick rocks. Just tell them to kick rocks. But the last thing here, Zane Gonzalez. How about a game from him? He steps in. He has a 56-yard field goal. He also has a 51-yard game-winning field goal that I think would have been good from 60. Falcons might have their kicker. I still would want to bring in some competition just because I'm a little antsy, just based off of the last 2 seasons. But he does have a kick blocked in this game. I don't know if it's his fault necessarily. We'll ask Marquise Williams about that one when we talk to him later on this week. But it does get me into one of the biggest concerns from this game, that special teams are a massive issue. And Marquise Williams, I don't think is going to be retained here. Some of it is his fault. Some of it's just the fact that you haven't had some of your most important players here. Josh Woods, of course, he has some personal matters, which folks are going to learn what those personal matters are here shortly. I don't want to steal that thunder, but that will come out eventually. But special teams have been an issue for this team all season. And the blocked field goal that's returned for a touchdown, which you just can't have. You can't have that. And then it's on the final possession of the game. The Falcons chose, I think that they chose to kick the ball through the end zone and let the Rams get the ball on the 35-yard line. That's crazy. That's crazy. And some people are like, oh, it was a blunder. No one. They don't want people returning kicks on them because they know that these guys, they're more likely to let up a massive return than go and get a positive result on that play. And that's an indictment of where that special teams unit is right now. The last big one is the fact that Brandon Dorlus, breaks my heart to see him leave the game. We haven't had an official update on his status moving forward. I don't think it's going to be good. I'm very worried about what that looks like moving forward. I doubt he plays in week 18. He's probably going to finish his season with 8.5 sacks and just a breakout season. Hopefully it's not a long-term issue, but again, that's going to be something that comes out here in maybe today, maybe a little bit later on today. I would expect that it's going to come out in some capacity tomorrow. But at least at some point in the next 24 hours, I would imagine that we're going to have some kind of update in that. But I will keep you guys updated on all of that stuff. Make sure to give me a follow at GChapATL. That's where best place to get all of that. Keep on rolling through. I see some other comments here. Webb comes through and says, Carolina better of the two evils. All right, so you're talking about the NFC South here over on YouTube. All the Baker MVP chants were getting too much, and those have completely fallen by the wayside. He did get hurt, and I mean, I like Baker because I like football. I love football. Guys like Baker are fun to watch play the game of football, and I mean, he's been a joy. Just sucks that he plays on a different team, especially your division rival. Robert Archer on Facebook says Bijan is a great wide receiver too. That is one of the biggest facets of his game that I don't think people really appreciate enough. It's not that he's lining up in the backfield and just catching swing passes. This guy's legitimately lining up as a wide receiver, and he's running routes, and you have cornerbacks who are guarding him. Sometimes you have a linebacker who's guarding him. Those times, you're not very smart for doing that. Just go look at that game against the Commanders earlier this season. They lined up poor Bobby Wagner on Bijan Robinson. That's the thing. This guy is such a weapon. He's such a weapon, and you can line him up all over the field. You can do an incredible amount of things with this guy. You can put him in the backfield on third downs. He could be a blocking running back and just kind of dump off, and he could be a great dump off option. He could be he's a great runner between the tackles. He's a great runner outside of the tackles. He's great in the open field. He's elite in small and short spaces. That's where he's at his best, is when you make, professional athletes look completely and totally silly. That's when he's at his best. But he's a great wide receiver too. There's not a lot that this guy cannot do. Robert Archer says Penix needs to find a new team. Why isn't Penix at the games? I don't know if he's at the games or not. He's with the team. I mean, he was in recovery. So of course he had the knee injury, and he rejoined the team last week. I don't know if he's not at the games. He might be up in a press box. He might be up in a booth somewhere. I don't know if he's there or not. I know he's not on the sidelines, but I don't know if he is there, so I can't comment on that necessarily. 44 Seaside says we need to wear the red helmets, LMAO, and we definitely win the game. Well, they're 16-3 since 2009 in those helmets, so I'd say that's a pretty good sign. They're also extremely popular. I tend to agree with you. Just make them permanent. Make them permanent. They're pretty badass, and I love them. Halsey says the trade was okay, but no reason to chest bang when team is missing playoffs again. That's fair. I respect that. I just take a pair of all rookies. It's not as much chest banging, Halsey, to answer to kind of defend what I was saying earlier. It's not as much chest banging as it is defending the decision. The Falcons are going to get dragged all offseason. All offseason, they're going to get dragged for this decision because the Rams are going to have a second pick in the first round. I'm just here to say that the Falcons made a good decision for themselves. And it's a decision that I would make again. I think the Falcons were in better shape now because they go get an Xavier Watts and a James Pierce Jr. than they would have been otherwise. And that's how I feel about it. And I'm pretty firm. I'll die on that hill right now. That's just the way it is. And of course, things change and evolve, and we'll see what they can do in year two, and we'll see if they can build on this. Progress is not always linear, but these two have the potential to be absolute game records for the Falcons and franchise cornerstones in the years to come. Don't even mention the fact that you also got Jalen Walker, a guy who at pick 15 is another guy who can potentially go on to that all-rookie team. Been a great draft class. That was a great draft class. And Billy Bowman is, damn, he got hurt, and it's a bummer that he got hurt. But this could end up being one of the most impactful draft classes that the Falcons have had in many, 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 many years. Many years. And I think Terry did a good job, and he deserves his flowers for that one. All right. That's going to do it here for the Falcons podcast. here on a Victory Tuesday. We haven't had many of them. We've had exactly 7 of them. How do we make it 8? We'll talk about that on Thursday. We will discuss that Week 18 matchup with those damn Saints. It's going to be the finishing touch here for the Falcons season in 2025, but it only gets started after that. This is going to be a tumultuous offseason. I just have a feeling there's going to be a little bit of change, at least a little bit of change, and it's going to be a pretty important one. We'll talk about that game on Sunday. We'll start kind of give a preview of what that offseason may end up looking like, and we will do it all here on the Falcons Podcast. My name is Garrett Chapman. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show this evening. Make sure to give me a follow at GChapATL. If you're over there on Facebook, if you're over there on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're on Spotify after the fact, make sure to give us a rating. Really appreciate all of you, and share it with your friends. Hit that repost button. Maybe send it to a Falcons fan that you may know. We really appreciate all of you guys and this little community that we have building up here on the Falcons Podcast. But my name is Garrett Chapman. We'll be back again Thursday evening, 6 o'clock. Set a reminder, jump in. We'll have some fun. We'll talk about some Falcons football one more time. Last time in 2025 before the end of the regular season. But I appreciate all of you guys for jumping in. My name is Garrett Chapman. This has been the Falcons Podcast. We'll see you again very soon. Till then, go Falcons.